Hey, what's going on? My name's Ash. Welcome to my channel, Saved by an Angel. In this video, I'm going to talk about depression. Is it real? Is it your friend? Ever since 2015, I've been fully engulfed in the self-help, mental health community. In 2014, I attempted to take my life, and after a 9-month drinking bender, I decided it was time to quit drinking, quit gambling, quit smoking, quit doing all these things that weren't serving me, and I started changing my life. I started going to meditations, cleaning up my diet, working with shamans and energy Reiki healers, and just doing the inner work. And so this has been my entire life since 2015. I've watched many people talk about depression, and I wanted to share with you guys a clip from a gentleman named Andrew Tate, because I've listened to many of his videos talking about the subject. Some things I agree with, some things I don't. I wanted to discuss some of those things. You know, when it comes to depression and suicide, one thing I like to keep in mind is that if someone's never been to space, don't ask them what it's like to be an astronaut. Remember that. And the same thing goes with depression and suicide. If no one's ever really got to that point where they attempted to take their life, you can only take what they have to say with a grain of salt, because they're not a true astronaut, right? So check out this clip first of all.
Accepted now to the point where it's almost promoted. It's insane. Let me tell you something. Depression is not real. Feeling depressed is real. So you can feel depressed, but you feel depressed, and that is a natural biological evolutionary trigger for you to change something in your life. That's your own mind telling you you're unhappy about X. If I went to jail today, I'd be depressed because I'm in jail. Right. I haven't caught depression. I don't have a disease. I'm just upset.
Okay, so that's one of the things that he says that really actually made me relook at the way I view depression. So first of all, is depression our friend? Well, when I look back to 2013, the day my mom passed away in my arms, that day changed my life forever, because not only was I dealing with the fact of losing my mom, but it made me go inwards, and it made me realize that I was going to pass away one day. And I had no choice but to focus on everything about who I was, why I was wearing the underwear I was wearing, just everything I questioned. And the more I did this, the more problems it seemed to bring up. I realized that I had basically lived a life full of anxiety and depression and never really enjoyed being here. And I wasn't particularly proud of the person I'd become. I had anger issues. One of my favorite ways to solve an issue with a guy, if they were pissing me off, was to punch him in the head. Not first, but if I felt I was insulted, it was like, just come here and let me say hello, right? That was my demeanor. And so when I looked at who I'd become, I was like, okay, well, it's impossible to change, right? I was like, I'm stuck with myself and I'm not happy with who I am, so there's nothing I can do about it. And not only that, it made me realize that I was in an unhealthy marriage. I realized I had so much internal work. I realized that we had just grown apart and it was no longer a healthy situation. I realized that I was stuck in my 9-to-5 job just to pay bills, and I was no longer happy working in a job that was just killing my soul for money, right? And so all these things came crashing down. I remember finding out on my mom's deathbed, when she was in the hospice in a coma, unable to speak, that I'd been lied to my whole life about who my grandparents were. And when that happened, it might not sound like it's that dramatic, but I thought I knew my mom, and here I was looking at my mom in a coma, unable to speak, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to talk to you again about this. Like, why would you lie to me my whole life about who my grandparents were? And not only that, it just made me question, like, if I was lied to about that, like, what can I actually believe about my past? I was like, maybe I was adopted and I was lied to, like I didn't know anything. I remember going back to my garage that day, walking up to my car with my finger and pushing on it. And I was actually in the state of mind that I expected my finger to go right through my car, because I thought I was dreaming. It was just so many things just came crashing down at once. And so when I was in this depressed state, see, I always had a belief that, before I attempted to commit suicide, that suicide was a weakness, that if you committed suicide with a child, it was even more selfish, and if you were going to go, you might as well leave a note. That was my opinion on it. I saw it as a weakness, and that was before July 13th, 2014, when I attempted to take my life with a child and not leaving a note. Now, why would I do that, right? Especially when I thought all those things, right? But what I've come to learn is that, that wasn't a planned thing. For 13 months, every single day, I felt like I was just watching my body go through life. In a way, I'm not going to get too far into it, but you could say I had a bit of a walk-in. One of my guides were in main control of my body, where I was just kind of in my aura watching it, but that's a whole nother discussion. But for 13 months, I didn't want to be alive. I just went through the cycles of going to work, coming home, doing the same thing. And one day I was sitting in my garage, and I said to myself, see, at the time, it felt like someone stuck a shotgun to my heart, and there was just this gaping hole. And every single moment of every single day, it just felt like it was just absolute torture. Getting the momentum and trying to encourage myself to do everything day to day. Chores was sometimes impossible. Like, just getting up to do the laundry sometimes felt like I was being asked to run a triathlon. I just had no motivation to do anything in life. And so I was sitting there one day, and I was focusing on this gaping hole in my chest. And I just thought to myself, I was like, because I believed at the time that it was not possible for me to change who I was. I felt like I was stuck in this marriage. No one was supporting me. I brought it up to people around me. I brought it up to my wife at the time, and all I was hearing is that you're just going to ruin your son's life. You're just going to ruin your son's life. And so I just felt trapped everywhere, right? And the state of mind that I got in, I asked myself with this feeling in my chest, I was like, do you think you can do this for another 20, 30, 40 years of your life? Like, keep living like this? And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It's just too painful. And that's when I heard this voice say to me, all you have to do is go start your car, come sit back down, and it'll all be over. And to me, that was like a green light. For the first time in 13 months, I felt like I was in control and had power of something. And that's when I went on this, 45-minute journey of whether I should do what I just thought about. I came to the conclusion that it was a good idea. Touching on the aspect of having a child and committing suicide, the state of mind that I was in at the time, I basically told myself that I was never going to be able to heal from the pain I was in. I was never going to be able to become a happy, positive role model for my son. So I told myself, you know what? If I do this and I go, my son would be better off. I actually thought I was doing my son a favor. I said to myself, I'm not going to be able to raise my son to be a positive, happy person and enjoy this life. So if I leave, my wife at the time would meet someone that would be in a much better place than me. So I'd basically convinced myself that if I left this earth, that my son would be better off. In fact, I told myself everyone would probably be better off. I thought I was doing everyone, the world, and my son a favor by ending my life. In that state of mind, is that a weakness? I don't know. Obviously, it's not a good, healthy state to be in, but where I was coming from, it didn't feel like a place of weakness. It felt like I was actually doing something good for him. So that's just my opinion on, what my situation was, having a child and still attempting to take my life. And, as far as not leaving a note, I never planned on committing suicide. And when I sat there after hearing, all you got to do is start your car, I started thinking about all these things that I've been through in my life that were negative. And the more I did that, the more pissed off towards God I got. And right before, one of the last things that I said to myself was, I don't know what this life's all about, but I'm done playing it. And before I attempted to start my car, before Archangel Michael could appear, one of the things I remember taking pleasure in was the fact that this was a way to piss off God. I had always heard that, you shouldn't commit suicide because it is the number one sin. And so I thought, you know what, fuck you, God. This is my way to get back at you in a way. And so just had a crazy mindset, right? And when I look back to all this now, okay, let's talk about, is depression real? Is it your friend? When I look back at my situation, I felt like something was wrong with me for feeling this way. And that's absolutely insane. And that's what these big companies that'll sell you drugs want you to think. They want you to think that if you're depressed, there's something wrong with you. But when I listened to Andrew Tate talk about depression being your friend, I was like, oh my God, that's absolutely brilliant. Here, after my mom passed away, I was sitting in my garage reflecting on all these things in my life. I didn't like who I'd become. I didn't think it was possible to change. My marriage was no longer healthy. And I was no longer in love with my job. It felt more like I was being a slave for money. And so all these things, all these realizations came to me, and it caused me to feel depressed. Now, if you think about it, should all those things have made me feel good? No, this was a self-defense mechanism, my body telling me, look, this is how we're feeling. You can't focus on anything else other than this. These things need to heal. These things need to change. So rather than taking a bunch of depressants and trying to numb this feeling and feel good in this environment where I wasn't happy, I went within and I made the changes. And so in a way, depression is my friend, because if I would have felt good when all those things were happening, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Why would I? I would be feeling great. So if you're depressed, then you have to ask yourself, what's causing you to be depressed? And does something need to be changed? Does something need to be fixed? Sometimes it's just we lose someone, we're depressed, but reoccurring thoughts, negative over and over and over, seeing it as a loss is going to keep you in a depressed state. See, depression is a real thing, but like Andrew Tate says, it's not something you're going to catch from sleeping with someone. In my opinion, depression is a constant, it's an addiction to negative thinking, straight up. It doesn't come off that way, but we're constantly thinking of negative things. And when you do that, you track that energy, more thoughts like it come, and then before you know it, you can't think of anything positive. And that's what depression is. And so depression as a self-defense mechanism to me is absolutely brilliant. And I wanted to just say, I spent a long time thinking something's wrong with me. I'm like, man, I'm depressed. Something's wrong with me. I'm never going to get out of this. When in reality, it was just my body saying, okay, we need to make changes. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I think I've hammered it home enough. I wanted to share. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.